This is America Weekend. I'm Mike Bennett. A regular contributor each week is naturalist and farmer Greg Quinn, who's responsible for helping to bring black currants back to the U.S. market and, in fact, grows black currants on the Currant farm in the Hudson Valley, New York.
Hi, I'm Greg Quinn, and welcome to this week's entry into Notes from the Currant farm. When the deep cold of a winter's night plunges the farm into frozen silence, one of my simple pleasures is sitting in front of a fire and reading. When the world seems to be spinning out of control, I find peace in the stillness of the season, and winter nights are the perfect time for quiet contemplation. The other night, after adding a large oak log to the fire, I settled into my favorite chair with an old copy of Stories and Poems by Edgar Allan Poe. I flipped to my favorite, and probably one of his most famous, The Raven. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. So begins this mournful and haunting poem. Poe decided on the raven as the main character of this narrative because the raven was commonly regarded as a bird of bad omen, which matched the mood of the poem. And at one point of the story, the raven decides to perch on the bust of Pallas Athena, the Greek goddess of wisdom. In addition to a sign of bad news, Poe also depicted the raven as a wise and all-knowing bird. The family of crows to which the raven belongs has represented many symbols and has long been the center of mythology throughout history and in many parts of the world. The Irish, Danish, Cornish, and many other cultures have considered the family of crows the symbol of war and death, the ghost of murdered men, and exorcised spirits. This may have something to do with the fact that a flock of crows is called a murder of crows. In Norse mythology, a pair of common ravens carried knowledge. In Australian Aboriginal mythology, the crow is a trickster, and the Greek god Apollo became enraged when a crow exposed his lover's affair with a mortal, and in his anger, Apollo changed the crow's feathers from white to black. Crows are mentioned in Buddhism and Hinduism. The Japanese, Koreans, and Chinese all have crows playing roles in their myths. The Greek princess Arne was punished for her greed by being transformed into a crow who seeks shiny things, which of course all crows like. And in an Aesop fable, a crow comes up to a pitcher and can't reach the water in the bottom with his beak. So the clever bird begins to pick up pebbles and drop them into the pitcher so that the water rises and he can get his drink. The genus Corvid, to which crows belong, is a large family of birds, including ravens, jackdaws, jays, magpies, and rooks, to name just a few. They occupy every temperate continent except South America, as well as many islands. The American crow is the most common in North America, but there are many cousins here, and it's sometimes hard to distinguish them at first glance. This bird can live past 20 years, and in the winter, they have been known to take up roosting areas with flocks numbered in the tens of thousands. Crows reach sexual maturity around the third year for females and the fifth year for males, and they lay 3 to 9 eggs in the spring, and the nesting period is between 20 and 40 days. The young from the previous year often help protect the nest and feed the nestlings. Crows are smart opportunists and live near food sources around farms and in major cities across the world. There has been major increase in the population of crows in the U.S. cities since the 1900s. They have generally followed the colonization of the country westward. Crows are omnivorous. They'll eat almost anything, including other birds, eggs, nestlings, fruits, nuts, snails, earthworms, seeds, frogs, mice, and, of course, roadkill. Scarecrows in gardens and grain fields have been used for hundreds of years to reduce the damage that crows can do in a single meal. Crows' vocalizations are complex and not well understood. They have many different calls for different things they want to communicate to each other. These calls can also vary regionally, much the same as you hear different accents in different parts of the country. And crows are among the most intelligent animals in the world. They make tools. For example, they will clean and bend a twig to poke food, such as grubs, from a log. Now, several animals have been observed using tools, but crows have gone one step further. They have learned to use one long stick to get an out-of-reach twig that was better suited for the job. Some species have learned to use breadcrumbs for bait fishing, and some have the ability to hide and store food across seasons, which is rare. This is called episodic memory. And if that's not impressive enough, Research has shown that crows have the ability to distinguish individual humans by recognizing facial features. So the next time you see a murder of crows, remember, they're seeing you. To hear a rebroadcast of this week's notes or previous editions, and to find out why currants were illegal, go to currants.com. I'm Greg Quinn. Tune in next week for more notes from the Currant Farm.
We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email at mikeaw@mikebennetradio.com. That's Mike A.W. like America Weekend, mikeaw@mikebennetradio.com. Or you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at MikeBennett11. With Greg Quinn, I'm Mike Bennett, and you're listening to America Weekend.